Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Talk It with Ruth. I'm your host. My name is Ruth. It's TWR again, and I'm welcoming you to another segment of my podcast. So, what has been happening this week? What I will say about this week has been, in terms of what's going on. We've had a new single come out by Adekunle Gold. Adekunle Gold is probably one of the artists that I would say is he's out there and he's so versatile. And the new song he's brought there are two people on that song. There are two artists on that song. There's Adewale Ayuba and there is Yinka Ayefele on the song, and he sort of revitalized a part of our childhood, our Fuji childhoods, where you used to dance with your shoulders were like this when you were doing this, when you were dancing the songs. Songs that your parents used to listen to and you were jiving in the back, basically. He sort of brought back that old school memory of, your childhood memory, that just, filled with all sorts of interesting things, at the time. We're talking about, maybe 1990, maybe between the 90s, basically the 90s period. That I'd probably say that's what his song symbolizes, the new singer symbolizes. And I think he deserves his flowers 110%. The song is really, really good. The video is on point. It's really, really good as well. So I'll probably say that for me, that has been the highlight of the week, because he had been showing snippets of what the song is, and it's come out and it's really, really good. I think the views on it right now is really, really good and very, very positive. Touches on your childhood that maybe you had once forgotten about. He's just revitalized it. And what else has been going on this week? This week as well, I'll probably say I'm cracking down on this 6-7 trend. Yeah, the 6-7 trend with my children. I'm cracking down on it. Every time I try and find out what it means, I'm just getting different conflicting information. There's something about there was a singer who did something with the song, and maybe chickens and goats were involved. I've seen a video on that, and the practices behind it. And then I heard, it was just something mentioned because of a American, I think, basketball player or something like that. I honestly don't know. All I know is that if the time is like maybe something to do with 6 and 7, or I say, I need 7, my the people in my house or my children will go 6, 7, and they keep going on. And I've already told them 6-7 is banned. I don't want to hear anyone saying 6-7. I've just told them I don't want to know anything about it right now until we can determine what it actually means. I'm putting my foot down. I'm putting my footsies down on that. So no more 6-7 conversation. I don't want to hear anyone saying it. Although I'm saying it right now, but I'm only saying it because I'm talking to you guys. But I don't want to hear anyone saying it for now. In this house, I can't say for outside this house, but in this house, that's the rules, and we'll leave it at that. Okay. Okay. So moving on. I think the conversation today is in line with the 1990s period, 1990s early 2000 period conversation, I think, and the topic today is quick independence. That's what I would probably call it, quick independence. I don't know if you guys notice it. Anyone that's a millennial, basically, that is, I don't know, maybe between the age of maybe 35 and 45, that age range, and you were raised, maybe in the UK, there's this thing where we learned to be independent really, really quickly. And I would say that we are first generation, aren't we? Yes, we are first generation. As first generation African immigrants, children, you had to learn to be adaptable. You had to learn to be independent really, really quickly. I remember very well that buses used to be 40p back then. Buses used to be 40p to get on the bus. And the market. Our market was, what was the name of our market again? Was it Deptford Yeah, Deptford Market. Deptford Market was our go-to, and you have a situation where your parents are working all the time. They're working, they're hustling all the time, and you just had to get on with it. You did not have time to whinge. You did not have time to cry. You did not have time. You didn't even have anyone to really look over your homework or anything. Even your school uniform, you had to be the one to make sure that it was washed, cleaned, or dry cleaned if it had to be. And most of all, you were the one that had to cook as well. I have bags of memories about things like that. I think one of the earliest things I remember, probably around the age of 13, we would literally go to school. Where was my secondary school? My secondary school was Addie and Stanhope. Shout out Addie and Stanhope. I'm a Pepe's girl, Pepe's house, all the way. And I remember, going to school, and quote unquote being like the being the AF girl, and it was I'll probably say I was quiet, unassuming. I just tried to fit in because some people were already friends before I got there. Tried to fit in, had my own, I then had to figure myself out. But school life was very different to home life. Home life, you had certain responsibilities that you just had to do. I remember very well that we knew that, okay, we had to cook stew. You had to cook stew. You had to prepare a chicken. Oy, oy, oy. You'd have to cook 2 Prevera chickens, make a stew or something. Make a stew and maybe do rice and veg on the side or something like that. And I remember very well that we would go to school and we'd get back home around maybe 3:30, 3:45. And we would just, back then as well, when I got home, I had to have my Sunset Beach. Yes. Sunset Beach. I had to watch what was going on Sunset Beach. I can't remember the names of the characters. I think there was one called Cole or something like that. Was it? I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, I had Sunset Beach that I was going to watch and everything. You'd watch that, maybe try and do your homework, and then it would be like 5:30, and my sister would then say, "Oh yeah, we need to start cooking." She would then say, "Did you bring out the chicken?" I'll be like, "No, I didn't bring out the chicken." "Did you bring out the chicken?" And she's like, "Oh God, we forgot to bring out the chicken." The chicken is frozen solid. Would then have to get it out of the freezer. Would then start boiling hot water and chucking hot water on the chicken for it to defrost. It would be partially defrosted. This is really dangerous, by the way. It would be partially defrosted. You then quickly put it in the pot and then put seasoning and everything and start boiling it. At the same time, somebody else is blending the pepper. Someone else is blending, the peppers and the tomatoes, and then you have rice cooking on the other side. FYI, this kitchen is a really small kitchen. By the way, this kitchen is a really small kitchen. And we're trying to hustle in there. Have to do the stew, have to do the chicken. By the way, the stew will be ready. The chicken is still boiling. The rice is done as well. And would be like, gosh, mom and dad are going to be home by 6:30. We're not going to make it. As soon as they step in, we'll then, start having chats with them so they don't know that, okay, in reality, the food isn't ready. And we're just talking to the cooker that, please just boil this chicken. The chicken turns out tasty anyway. However, when my dad is then eating it, my dad would then say, isn't it a bit hard? He would say, oh no, it's the hard chicken. That's why it's hard like that. And there were some days that we just did not make it. And I would then tell my sister, you know what, let's make some sort of like sausage sauce and chop peppers into it and whatever. And my parents would then say, oh, we're having something different tonight. And we say, yes, but they don't realize it's because we forgot to take out the chicken and cook it and everything. We just had so much responsibility put on us at that time. But for us, it was very, very normal. It was very normal to be cooking. It was very normal to be cleaning. On Saturdays my parents would, they'd give us money and they would say, okay, go and buy the food, and we would drive. We no, not drive. We would take not drive. We would take the bus to Peckham. We take the bus to Peckham. My little brother, with in hand as well, would carry our Ghana must go bag, and we would be on the bus 177 to Peckham to go and buy food. My sister was not good at pricing stuff and haggling, so she'd be like, I should go in. So I would be the one haggling on the price of meat. And just so you know, at this time, I think 1 kg of meat back then was maybe £2.50 or so. You can't even compare it to now. You can't compare the price of beef or anything or fish now to what it was back in 1998. I'm saying it and I feel really old. Yeah, like 1998, 1999 period. You can't compare the pricing of food then to food now. Just so you know, just to give you a bit of an insight, a can of tomato plum was 9p back then. A can of tomato plum was 9p, and it went up to, I can remember it even being 28p compared to today. I don't know how much a can of tomato plum is now.
Maybe like 40 pence.
Is it? Yeah, okay. When I buy like a box of 12, that's why. So I don't know how much the individual price is. But I remember tomato plum being 19p. I remember it being 9p. And the price has just gone up since then. But anyway, the conversation, going to Peckham with my little brother and my big sister, and we'd carry our Ghana must go, and we'll make our way past, I can't remember the name of the big store that was in Peckham. Was it Tesco then or Safeway? Was it Safe? Yeah, it was Safeway. That's what it was then. Massive store where Bus 17 you would drop you off. You would then walk in our jackets. 3 kids. We're all maybe between the age of 15 and 8. Yeah, like 15 and 8 or 9. My brother was about 8 or 9 years old. I was like 13. My sister was 15. And we'd make our way in there, and I'd be the one to go into the store, and I'd be like, I want shin, like cut it like this, cut it like that, blah blah blah, and I want tripe, shaki, I want tripe, I want kidney, and they'll do everything for us. And before we then leave, obviously, for us back then, McDonald's was a luxury, so we would find. I remember we would look for like a Greg's. It was like a Greg's or one of those African stores. I would buy something really cheap for, £1 that we would share between ourselves. And we would carry our Ghana must goes. So my brother would give him one bag, a small bag. That, okay, you're just really small, take a small bag. And me and my sister would carry the big Ghana must go, and she'll carry on one side, I'll carry on one side, and we'd make our way back. And the worst times was when we got there and it's freezing and the bus is just gone. And you would just want to cry, and would know, okay, the next bus is not for another 20 minutes or so. We'd then sit down at the bus. I don't know. I have no idea what that bus depot looks like now, but we would sit down there and wait for the next bus to come. And when the next bus came, we'd get on it. Bus 177 taking us back to. We could either get off. We used to usually get off closer to home, which was the bus stop right beside New Cross Station. There was that bus stop, and then there was one further down as well. So we would get off on either one of them, whichever was the quickest for us to get home. We would then make the long walk. I would say it was long for us at that time, but now as an adult, it wasn't that long. We'd then walk all the way down to the house, and as we're going, me and my sister would then pause and stop because our fingers, when you're carrying it, your fingers here then start hurting, and we'd get home, would then unpack the meat, wash everything, and then pack them into bags, put them in the freezer, take out the one we're gonna cook. We were so independent. We were the ones that decided what was going to be made in the house. We would decide, okay, this is what we're making, and it was just what it was. It was and my parents were just, they were always working, unfortunately, at that time. That you just had no choice. You had to grow up. You literally had to grow. If I think back to between the age of 13 and 16, I don't remember ever being invited to a party. Not once. And the only thing that I could go to was the school disco. And I used to look forward to going to the school disco. And I remember a particular time. Sorry. My producer is laughing because he knows what I'm about to say. I remember there was a particular disco I really, really wanted to go. And my dad said, yes, I could go. Like a month before, I bought the ticket. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to the school disco. And and then like, I think on the day in the morning, I said, oh, Dad, remember I'm going to school disco. He said, really? I said, oh, okay, no problem. Then it came time. I got dressed, everything. And I'm going to school disco. My dad was like, hey, come here. Where are you going? And I was like, oh, I'm going to disco. He said, what disco? You did not tell me you were going to a disco. And I was like, but Dad, I told you I was going to school disco. I think it was supposed to start at maybe 7 o'clock. It's about maybe 7 till 10. Bear it in mind, my house to the school is 5 minutes. I don't know why you're laughing. My house to the school is 5 minutes. I must have been maybe 15 or 14 at the time or thereabouts. And I was like, oh, but you told me I could go. My dad was like, no, you did not tell me. Bear it in mind, he's not at home. This is a Friday. He wasn't going to be at home. And he just said, no, you're not going to any school disco. I've changed my mind. I remember my heart sank. And my brother was consoling me. My sister was consoling because I really wanted to go. And as far as I knew, that particular disco, everybody was there from school. And it's just interesting how, people will see you in school and stuff, and they don't necessarily know the struggles you're facing at home. And for me, just trying to, yes, you trust me to cook, and you trust me to clean, and you trust me to do my work, etc. But when it then comes to having a social life, you're not necessarily given that same opportunity. You're not then given that same opportunity. And I feel that the way kids are growing up these days, they get so much more. They get so much more. Period. I don't think there's any way to put that conversation. They get a lot more in the sense that we're more concerned about their mental well-being, their emotional well-being, if they're doing well in school, if they're making good judgments when it comes to friends, just in general, that we want them to be well-adjusted, happy adults that believe in themselves. Because I can tell you for free, at that time, I felt, and also I was quote unquote heavier. I was heavier. So I did not feel confident in myself at that point in time. And the big blow then being, oh, you can't even go or anything. And this is where this disco is taking place. It's in the hall. It's in the hall, the school hall where we all are every day. The only difference is the lights are off and there's a bit of disco, and they're doing some what were their songs back then? There was Spice Girls, Ultra, 5. Was it Take That? Yeah. They were still popping back then. Will Smith, na 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 na. Those are the kind of things that we were going to dance to anyway. And I just felt so gutted that I couldn't go. And I wouldn't necessarily say that it affected me. It just made me, I looked at my dad different after that a bit. Because I feel like he took that one opportunity away from me and I couldn't get it back. And I just thought to myself, so what's the point? What's the point? And now, when you talk about the Gen Alphas, because I have 2 Gen Alphas, if my first Gen Alpha came to me and said, Mommy, I have a party, I'll say, really? So who invited you? Oh, that's so nice. Oh, what do you want to wear? How do you want to do your hair? Blah, blah, blah. And believe it or not, a lot of the time when she's then going to go, she would then come and say, oh, Mommy, what should I wear? I don't think I've picked a good outfit. Because what I do is I leave her to do her own thing, because I know that she will come back later and then, ask me for my opinion and, what's the best thing for her to wear, how will she look, etc. Like, I feel like our generation as parents, some of us, well, not all of us, I would say some of us are a lot more encouraging, because we've been in those awkward situations, especially as teenagers. We've been in those awkward situations, and we don't necessarily want our children to experience it. I think they would experience a different layer to what we experienced. But ultimately, we want them to be independent. But I think the independence they're going to experience is very different to the independence that I experienced. Example now, back then, I was already taking the bus, I was already taking the train. If we wanted to, the first cinema I remember was the cinema in Peckham. That's one of the first cinemas that I remember. And it was like £3.50. After that, we then had a new cinema in Surrey Quays. Surrey Quays was a lot more swishy compared to Peckham. And it was, I can't remember if it was a UCI or something like that. I remember the first movie I watched there was Star Wars, and I slept because I'm not a Star Wars fan. I'm still not a Star Wars fan. No offense to anyone who's a Star Wars fan, but I think it was Star Wars that opened back then, and we went there and we watched it, and I slept for half of the movie, but it was great. Whereas like my kids, I would say that they can make decisions on if they want to go somewhere or they don't want to go. I think they're independent, but their independence is very different. Our independence came with responsibilities. Their independence is coming with decision making. Good decision making, because depending on the decisions you make, it will shape your life. So their decision making independence is very different to ours. Ours just came with manual labor and just being responsible. Whereas with them, I personally believe a lot of alpha kids are probably responsible, but their level of independence is a bit more different. If I tell my kids now, oh, we're going somewhere, we're taking the bus, I will get moans. My kids will say, can we please, can we drive there? That's where they're going. Like, can we drive? I don't want to take the train. But I'm enforcing it that you have to take the train. You have to learn to navigate your way around. It's very, very important. So yeah, I think that's for me. That's the top. That's been what I wanted to talk about today. Just that level of independence. I think what was probably different for me growing up was you were trusted to be independent in terms of catering to the house, but you were not given social independence. And for any well-rounded adult, I think social independence is so, so, so important, because that's what they will use to frame and form who they are. And the honest truth is, we were good kids. We were really, really good kids. We were very, very sensible kids. We were very sensible. We wouldn't have made any bad decisions or anything. And we were not peer pressurable. If that makes sense. We were not peer pressurable. Because if you're an AF, you're growing up in an AF household, especially with the way that, the adults in our lives were, you just, honestly, you did not even have time to be silly. You just didn't have time. You didn't have time. I didn't have capacity for it. My life, especially, I'll probably say between that age of 16 and 19, my life was very, very structured, in the sense that I went to college. I had my part-time job, which I did on Wednesday and Saturday, and I went to choir practice on Wednesday, sometimes on Wednesday, and definitely on Friday. All my Fridays, I was in choir practice, and I loved choir. I loved choir so much. Sometimes we had blue suits, sometimes we had yellow suits, sometimes, and then maybe a pink scarf. It was really fun back then to be in choir. I enjoyed it, and being around all those adults. I think that's a conversation for another day. Or being around all those adults and the stuff they used to get. I'm not gonna have that conversation right now, but yeah, my life was really, really structured. So I didn't have time to hang out with anybody on a Saturday and Sundays. I was in church from morning till like 4:00, and then you start all over again on Monday. And for me, the thought process was I needed to go to university, so I didn't have time to play around. However, the people in my house had other ideas. They did not think we were socially responsible. I remember very well when I wanted to get at the time it was called one to one. I wanted to get a contract for my father said he said, Ruth, you're financially responsible, but you're not socially responsible. And I looked at him and I was just like, so I can earn money, but I can't then decide how I want to spend it. But that was their reason. Maybe he saw something that I didn't see. I don't know. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But at the time, it felt different to me. But anyway, just to wrap up on this on the topic for today, which was about being independent, being independence at the time, independence today. I think independence then, in growing up in the 90s, is very different to the independence we're experiencing in this year 2025. It's just a different layer, and I think what we experienced as first generational AFs born here and that have schooled here is very different to someone like my child's who's second generation. So I'll probably say I give her credit for a lot of I give my kids credit for a lot of things. And I think what I'm trying to do is drive them towards, social mobility. Just being social mobility, being independent in your own way, having your own mind. Because I feel like there's too much out there right now. AI, internet, etc. They're being fed so much that you have to just always try and remember who you are and where you're coming from, on or who you're coming from, where who you're coming from and where you see yourself going. As long as you have those key things in mind, I think you'll be okay. Just like kids back then, those that are okay today are okay. And you just hope for the best. You just hope for the best for people, and you hope for the best, but you plan towards that best as well. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about with you guys today. And I hope you've enjoyed the show, and please like, follow, subscribe, comment. All of it is very much appreciated. All of it is very much welcomed. And this will be, I believe, the last show for 2025. You'll be seeing more from us very soon. 2026 is going to be a smashing year, and I can't wait to showcase what's going to happen with you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have an awesome rest of the year.